Welcome to DJNTV and Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe. Now introducing the one and only Ben Stowe.
Yeah, baby. Yeah. Welcome to another Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe. This is the time where those questions, those desires for knowledge, and the world itself can all come together on your screen and give you the peace in which you deserve for 2025. Right? No?
Yeah, what can I add to that?
Yeah. I mean, that's because we've got some great content, some inspiration, some perspiration, any aspiration you can find. We're gonna have it for tonight. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
Remember, today is January 7th, so your 1 week free trial of 2025 is almost over.
It's almost over. So yeah,
if you'd like to cancel now,
if you want to return, you're gonna have to get on it. It's coming quick. It's coming quick. Okay, so Ben, we've got some topics tonight. We've got a few things that we're going to share with our viewers, and we want to thank you guys for being with us out there on the different channels. If you happen to we've got a little more time tonight, so if you've got a question, you would like us to kind of do a Q&A at the end of tonight's show, please put that into the chat, and I think I can see all of those. If I click on there, I can see Robin is in the chat there, hey, and Robin. Others. Just go in there. Yeah. First off, just go say hey so we can see and make sure that we can see everybody. And then secondly is if you have any questions you want us to hit at the end of the show, we will, well, not the very end of the show. I mean, it'll be towards after we're done with the main segments. Then we'll
after
do Q&A.
A little bit, we'll do it.
Yeah, exactly. And then the end of the show will be like later than that. So yeah, just make it confusing as I'll get out. So
the middle end.
The middle end. Yes. Yeah. The latter part. Yeah, okay, so we've got our segments we need to jump into, and the first one is going to be Ben's Joke of the Week. We'll be right back with that. Here we go. All right, Ben, what is this week's joke?
So, I'm struggling to find good DJ jokes, and I'm not getting a lot of help from our viewers. I'm just going to say that, you guys got to help me out here because, I don't know. There's just seems to be not a lot of good DJ joke material, but I got a few left on my little list. So here we go. What kind of coffee does a DJ drink?
I do not know what kind of coffee do they drink?
A techno blend.
A techno.
Honestly, I'm thinking about, me, I drink all coffee, right? So,
yeah, basically if it's in a cup and it has caffeine and it's black and it's like, we're good to go.
Yeah. I mean, honestly. Yeah. So, God, there's a few more, but I'm just, it's a cry for help.
A techno blend. Yes.
Yeah. I clearly over the last 32 years that I've been in this industry, I have not made a name for myself for my
your stage stand-up. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's coming. So let's jump to our first question of the night. Okay, Ben, our first question tonight is one of the viewers actually sent this in, was wondering about reducing the echo in a room. They had their sound system set up, and it sounded like, from just trying to read between the lines, I wonder if they were in a gymnasium type of a thing with the hard walls. And they were wondering if there's anything they can do to reduce the amount of echo they were getting with the room's hard walls.
Well, let me think about the order I want to answer this question in. I do have some slides prepared to talk about. We're going to talk about, we're not going to call it echo. We're going to call it the reverberant field. So we're going to just explain what that is first, and then I'm going to answer the question.
Okay.
And I think you'll see why I'm doing it in this order. And if not, then I guess it is what it is. So let me go to some slides. Let's take a look at this. So first, let's take a look at a room, and we can see these blue traces here represent the sound path, the audio path, right?
Okay.
We have the direct sound, and then that gets right to that person, and then we have some early reflections, and then we've got these ones that kind of bounce around. And that's fine, that is what it is, but the bounces keep bouncing. So this begins to multiply, and it starts to look like something I might have drawn in first grade, and in a highly reverberant space, or in a room with a lot of fast echoes, we'll say, you can end up with something that's sort of like this, and the intelligibility. And there's a lot of different things we use to measure intelligibility, STI, speech transmission index, alcons, or the loss of consonants, and all kinds of different ways we try to measurize. I just made that word up.
Mesmerized.
All kinds of different ways we try to measure, the clarity of the sound that we get. And here's kind of a simpler, easier way of looking at this being graphed, right? There's our direct sound, and then those early reflections, and then here's that reverberant field. And we can see that noise, that reverberant energy, can be really problematic, right? If you're in like a gymnasium, it can get really high
Mm-hmm.
to where it's. I'm sort of trying to not get ahead of my next slide here, so why don't we just dive into it? So we measure this in what's called RT60, which is basically the amount of time it takes for that sound to drop off by 60 decibels. So our sound is going along making noise, and then we turn the sound off, and in a purely anechoic space, it just gone, right? The sound, it ends and it ends, but that usually isn't what happens. We hear some sort of a reverb trail on it, and the amount of time that takes is called the RT60. So that's how we measure the quality of a room. And there's a particular hockey arena. Our company does acoustic treatment, so we treat buildings, things like that. Getting ahead of the punchline here, but we did this hockey arena where we, basically explained to them that spending a lot of time and money was actually going to bring their building up to bad, because it is so bad. You and I cannot stand 10 feet apart on the ice in this arena and have a conversation. You just can't. It's so the reverberant energy in this building is so bad. Anyway, most gymnasiums aren't. Architects are supposed to be paying attention to this sort of thing, but it's one of those things that clients often cut right away. It's a money thing. Acoustic treatment, we can cut that out of the budget, so we end up with these rooms that sound like garbage. So here, this is actually from a book for architects from 1998, showing how they're supposed to address this. And we can see here we've got our near field sound and our sound source, and then we'll call this our direct field. And then we can see we've got two lines here for the reverberant field with low room absorption, meaning it's a highly reverberant room. And then here we've got the reverberant field with some really good absorption. And we can see how this affects that reverberant energy level relative to the direct sound level. And where these points intersect is what we call the critical distance. So basically at that point, the direct energy is the same level as the reverberant energy. And the intelligibility is going to be basically non-existent. It's going to be basically garbage. You're hearing as much reverb as you are of the direct field. So how to fix it, right? Because the viewer might be thinking, well, yeah, I already know I have the problem. Thanks for graphing it, but I still have a problem, right?
Yep.
Okay, but understanding what the problem is, I think, helps us, because anything that we do to increase the direct sound proportionally increases the reverberant energy. Everything comes up and goes down together. So, people would say, well, can you EQ it out? Not necessarily. We can certainly find certain problem frequencies and we can try to identify some of those, but that's not going to solve the underlying problem, because anytime we raise the direct field, we raise the reverberant field. So two ways you can try to address this. One is, and this can be dangerous too, but one is lots more speakers closer to the people. Put a speaker for every person, right? You'd have a lot of direct field, but now we can have other problems like arrival time, that sort of thing. And obviously it's impractical to put a speaker for every person or headphones, but putting more speakers closer to the people can be a way where we don't have this critical distance. We're not trying to cover a big space, having some delays, things like that, where we can keep that direct field to each listener as close and practical as possible, and then use some time alignment to try to even those things out. The other thing, and this goes to the whole punchline about acoustic treatment, is we can't electronically fix an acoustic problem. Because like I said, raise the direct field, reverberant field comes up. So two ways that we can try to do this. One is with soft absorptive things. And like a heavy drape, your banjo piping drape is going to do minimal things, very minimal. A heavy drape is going to help a little bit with some of the higher frequencies. There is a bunch of slides that I thought about putting in with the absorptive properties of various acoustic treatment materials and the frequencies, and I thought, nah, we're getting way off the deep end here. But anything you can do to absorb some of that sound or diffuse some of that sound will help. And one of the best things is all these giant walking bags of salt water. Get a lot of people in there. Anything that's going to absorb that energy so that it's not getting these hard reflective live surfaces like in the gymnasium. And to put it in the simplest of terms, point the loud part at the people and keep it from getting anywhere else.
So can you go back to that first picture where you showed the person speaking and the other two?
Yeah.
If you would, please.
Surely.
Because you mentioned, of course, putting speakers and talking time align. So
yep.
If we would, again, say that we have our person speaking up there, and let's say if we were able to go and have speakers every X number of feet on the sides, and because many of our speakers nowadays have the ability to do time align, could a person be able to go with a lower main, the point source volume, because you have now speakers on the sides aiming in towards the guests, so that just because the main sound is lower, but it's coming from our points, would that help the intelligibility of the audio?
Yeah, definitely, because we don't have this, this distance. Every time we double this distance from here, we're losing 6 dB.
Mm-hmm.
And that reverberant energy continues to build up in the room. So that's where we saw that graphing of the, direct field sound relative to the reverberant field and the current distance that we looked at, right?
Yeah. So in this particular situation, for placement of the speakers, obviously on the sides as we do, but would a person want to aim them toward, like more from the wall straight in, or would a person kind of aim them towards, at an angle towards the back to work their way down?
Well,
Or does it matter?
Yeah, no, it matters, but I think a little bit of it's going to be kind of, when you get in the room and see. One of the things I'm going to want to do, I'm going to switch colors for a quick second to illustrate this, because if this speaker has a 90-degree coverage in the horizontal plane, I want to keep as much of that energy off that wall.
Okay.
Because it's going to hit that wall and it's coming right back, just like what we can see right here, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's something to be said for that, but I also want to avoid phasing in between my speakers here in the middle. So I think there's a little bit of, there's a lot of science, but I think there's also a little bit of just using your ears, and I love this because it's so soul crushing for people who come to my presentations and they sit through all this science. And then, in the end, I basically say, just use your ears,
They're like, no, give me a formula.
They're like, oh, but we just sat through an hour of physics. But I think the two really go hand in hand, because I think your ears, without an understanding of what you're really listening to, you can say, well, that doesn't sound good and I don't know why. Whereas the two work together, where you can say, okay, well, now I understand what I'm hearing, and now I can go back and I can turn that speaker a little bit in this direction or that direction, and listen. Does it sound better or worse, right? Key thing, though, and I'm going to switch colors again because I'm having so much fun, is this distance, that we've got here. This person can probably hear both speakers on some level, so we've got to make sure that this arrival time is accounted for. So, if that's, let's say 100 feet, that's ballpark it, 8.9 milliseconds per foot. So, 0.89, excuse me, 0.89 milliseconds per foot. So I got to put a decimal somewhere in there. But anyway, we got to make sure that this is, that when this sound gets here, the two go together. Otherwise, you've got a new problem. You created your own reverb because they're hearing the same sound here and then they're hearing it from here, and those are arriving at different times. So that's also problematic. So
you mentioned the 90-degree the way the horn works, that it's shooting out at a 90 degree, or the dispersion. when it comes to the vertical dispersion, is that something that we should be worried about in a situation, or are speakers kind of aimed enough where the vertical surfaces aren't as concerning?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Vertical dispersion of the speaker, is that so kind of honed in that we don't have to worry about like bouncing off the ceiling, or are the ceilings a prime area for issues with echo and the bouncing of sound?
Well, it depends, right? So let's look at some examples. I'll just try to pick a spot I can draw here. So let's take a typical DJ speaker pattern, and we'll look only in the vertical planes. We're looking at the side here, and let's say that it's a 55 or 50-degree vertical pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on where this is and where your ceiling is, and what our angle of attack here to the ceiling is, that may or may not be an issue. So as we've talked about in previous shows, we might be better suited to have a way to angle this speaker down so that now our coverage is more like this.
Mm-hmm.
And there are attachments and things you can get for speaker stands that will do that. Various ways we can do that. If we look at a long throw box, let's put this one back. This might actually be, this might actually be more of like a 20-degree, or if we get into line array, a lot of those are 10-degree because there's a lot of boxes that are going to get arrayed there,
Sure.
So, I guess it depends, right? 60 by 40 is another really common. That's really hard to draw with a mouse, but I guess it depends is the short answer, right? You typically don't see, and you do sometimes see, boxes that are like 100 by 100, or radial speakers. I think the K12 is a 75-degree, conical pattern, for example, so it might be putting a lot of energy towards the ceiling, the original K12. So anyway, it depends, right? It depends on what that horn pattern is, but most of your boxes are typically like a 60 by 40 or a 90 by 50 or a 90 by 60 even sometimes, and just depends on what that box is and how far they are to the ceiling, and whether or not that really matters. It's not going to come off as sharp of an angle as a 90-degree does. That's a little bit more than 90, but
yeah, and many walls have between glass or cement or something, if they're brick, you can have that hard wall and that surface. Yeah, and sometimes the ceilings have angles because they're a vaulted ceiling or something. So all those
correct. Anything that's going to diffuse that, and also ceilings often are made of like acoustic tile and things that are designed to have some absorptive properties. So I don't want to give a kind of a one size fits all here and say, oh yeah, the ceiling's no problem. Yeah. But it's usually less of a problem.
There you go. Right? Excellent. Let's jump to our next segment tonight, Ben's TED Talk. We're back. All right, Ben, what do you have for us this week?
Not much. Just we joked a little bit at the beginning of the show about 2025 and it being January 7th and we're a weekend, and you can cancel your free trial for 2025, but you can't, right? Time is a fairly arbitrary human thing. There's been other calendars throughout different parts of time, and in fact, this calendar, I'm totally pulling this out of the seat of my pants if you can't tell, but this calendar, has been modified. We started inserting things like Janus, for January, and people would say, why is, October the 10th month when Octo is 8? Well, because we stuck a couple of these Romans in there. So 8 became 10, Deca is 10. Well, now it's 12 because December, right? So the point is, time is something we figured out a way to just sort of put notches in as it goes by, and 2024, 2025 doesn't really matter, so I guess the reason I'm saying that is I've seen a couple friends of mine have already started the year off with some tough goes. One had a pretty bad accident, another one had an car accident right after that, and I've seen some people already post some things about, man, 2025, screw you, and whatever. Listen, man, it's an arbitrary number. Let's not doom ourselves for the next 51 weeks and try to count down to some new arbitrary number that we think is going to be better. Let's take every day for what it is. And I know that that's hard when life sucks and things like that happen, and bad things happen to good people. That is a thing. But I think all of us have a lot of power over our own situations. We can take control of what those things are. We can realize that life is not as much what happens as it is what we do with it. And we can start making a better day, week, month, year for ourselves, and also in so doing, I think we can do that for other people. So that's my TED talk. Is that
So
all jokes aside, dates don't mean
so
anything.
this is coming from a over 40 Ben Stowe.
Yeah.
Let's take
Well,
this back to a 20 something Ben Stowe. And if you're back there, how did a 20 something Ben Stowe, the whole concept of taking every day for what it is, as opposed to letting the world, the energy, the stress, the things of the world, was that something you could do at that particular point in time in your younger self, your life, or is that something that as you've matured, it has become easier to just take and appreciate every day as you are doing now?
a lot of questions in there. I think the simplest way to answer it is to say, yeah, it's gotten easier with time. A lot of things do. I think that is a part of maturity. It's a part of wisdom. I think it's a part of realizing, that didn't kill you before. It probably won't kill you again, and also realizing that sooner or later it will kill you, right? That's just, you just kind of have to accept where things are headed, but I think too, it comes down to proportionality. You know, when I was a 20-year-old, uh, a year was a higher percentage of my life than it is now. So, if something was a year away, it felt longer. If something, took this amount of time, it felt longer. Um, these things were more impactful. They were a higher percentage of the life that I had lived. Uh, and I think there was there's a lot of things going on when you're 20. For me in particular, having recently been, homeless, so there was a lot of upheaval and uncertainty, and I think now you sort of roll with the uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
You say, well, so be it, right? But I'm a lot more at peace. I'm a lot more at comfort, I think, even when things are not going well. And that's maybe a hard thing. And some people might say, well, easy for you to say. And I say, hey, you don't know that it's easy for me to say. I'm not judging you. Please don't judge me. What I'm telling you is, you can't change it, right? So you can change your perspective. You can't change you can change your perspective, and that matters. It's
Mm-hmm.
mattered to me. And I spend a lot of time. We have a lot of younger, team members, particularly, in the live events, the stagehands, production people. I spend a lot of time around these people that are in their 20s, trying to tell them, say, hey, man, it's going to be okay. All right. Just take a deep breath. I don't know how many times in my lifetime, John, you too, that we've been told the world's ending. This is the next sign. This is
Yep.
it for
Yep.
sure. I'm kind of like, yeah, honestly, like nobody friggin' knows,
Mm-hmm.
like, a thief in the night, as it says, right? So, I'm not too stressed about it. I don't get too worked up. And I think that's another sort of tangent on this is the headlines. My gosh, they're designed to evoke emotion. They're designed to evoke reactions. We just went through an election, and they push all our buttons to get us to donate money and, really get riled up. But honestly, everybody just take a deep breath. It's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. I
Yeah.
promise you that. It's now oh, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. It's always something. And that's what you figure out, I think, after time. At least that's what I figured out after time, is it's always something.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little less worried about what the next something is. I'm a lot more measured, I think, so not less is fair. Not that I don't care. I'm a lot harder to shake now,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
We before we went on air, we were talking about some situations in that there's things that we can control and things that we can't control, and obviously the things we can't control, the fallacy of having to worry about those or get stressed out about those. Personally, that's something that with maturity has come. Those things, some of that would eat at a person an awful lot, and I guess in your situation, you've got a lot more, a lot of hats that you're wearing also on a regular basis and such. how do you handle those situations where there's things that you can't control, yet you've got to still be aware of them, and yet not let them eat you alive? How do you handle those?
Sometimes even still it takes having that little talk with yourself, to say, sort of, when the offense is not running smooth plays, you call a timeout and you get the huddle, right? And you're like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
hey, everybody focus, like, and I'm talking in my head
Yeah,
here, right?
yeah.
But it's like, like, hey, just like sort of get yourself kind of straightened back out and go, yeah, that was jarring. That was rattling. I mean, I just lost one of my best friends, passed away. That's hard. Uh, you know, um, and you kind of say, well, that's not very fair and that's not cool. And it's not, but I can't change the fact that he's dead. And I also wouldn't change the fact that he and I have these awesome memories.
Mm-hmm.
um, so and there's lots of examples I could bring about. Market forces change, something that causes significant disruption to our business. These sorts of things, they happen. I've now been through 3 recessions and a pandemic. um, and so I think that too, that experience, that just gives you some comfort, and you have to remind yourself of that. You're like, hey, we've been here before,
Mm-hmm.
and we can't change that. What we can change is our approach to it.
Yeah.
So let's focus on the only thing we can change, you know. And again, it's hard. And friends help, being able to talk it out, just crank up some loud music, whatever works for you, go scream into the void. But
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's really much more of an internal process, and it's a much quieter process where I just got to be like, hey, it's all right. you
Mm-hmm.
know it's all right. Sort of like that calming coach when their team is just had another
Yeah.
turnover or something.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta, like, listen, we got to get back in the game. We
Yeah.
just, we got to get back out there. And for me in particular, there's a lot of people that count on me to make good decisions.
Yeah.
There are serious consequences if I don't. People will suffer, potentially, greatly, or certainly more than they would want to.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of remind yourself of that, and you're like, all right, man, we just got to get back into it. We just got to get back into what we do, and make good decisions, and do right by these people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and really kind of circling back to your statement of taking every day for what it is. When a person takes that type of a focus and making the best of that situation, not focusing
What
on
else
the
can you
negative.
do, John?
Yeah,
What else
I
can
mean
you
that's
do?
literally that's there's the lesson what maturity brings to us. Some of us are earlier than others, but for most of us, that eventually becomes a lesson we learn.
So listen, if you're a 20-year-old and you're watching, it's going to be all right. In fact, it's going to be great. Your best years are ahead of you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't let yourself be cheated out of those experiences and those opportunities. Yeah, there's going to be hardships. Yeah, there's going to be bumps in the road. But honestly, if this was just a coast, coasting, down the river or whatever, I mean, what fun would that be? You know,
And
where's the accomplishment in that, right?
yeah,
So embrace those challenges, and it's going to be great. And look, if you're a 49-year-old like me, if you're, yeah, I'm really that old, I know. But anyway, and you're still letting life get the best of you. Listen, I'm going to tell you something that's not going to feel real good, but you're not getting out of this alive. So let's make the most of what we got.
mm-hmm.
Right? We only got a little time left, whatever that is. Let's not waste that.
Yeah, definitely. Good. Last question, and then we will get to your questions. If you guys want to put those in the chat, Eric, I know you're out there and you've got a list of questions, so you can just start putting them in the
Well,
chat.
good.
But let's get to our last question here. All right, Ben, our final question tonight that we have for the show, and then we will get to our Q&A time after this. So DJs, of course, we've talked on different shows about keeping track of the wattage and such that our gear uses. And let's kind of talk about something that DJs could possibly be using on a more consistent basis, wondering, to be able to check these pieces of gear. Are there options out there to be able to do that beyond, our favorite, the kilowatt?
Yeah, there's a new one that just came out. Our friends at Colorado Sound and Light, Jim, has made. And I think a lot of people, what has challenged people in the past is they say, well, gear is measured in wattage, but our breakers are measured in amperage, and there's, resistive loads and reactive loads. And I really just want it to be simpler. So there's a couple things. And I'm going to think about what order I want to talk about these in. Let's go with this order. So, and by the way, I got to say, because this is pretty cool, I'm going to tell you about a special buy on these in a minute. But first, the nerd in me wants to talk about what they are. So this is, as it says right on there, a power meter. Instead of using, a multimeter and a calculator and that sort of thing, this is designed in bright LED numbers to just tell you straight up. So we can see there's our voltage in the red and our amperage draw in the blue. And I happened to find an old heat gun and thought I'd see, like, what is the difference between the two power settings? So let's find out. I'll try not to set my office on fire while I do. So I was going to use, I thought, I was going to use my wife's, blow dryer. She uses that every day. I wonder what that's costing me in electrical bills. And then, that maturity and that common sense kicked in.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so I was just gonna say that the early part of that sounded like a single guy statement, and then the married man intelligence kicked in.
Whatever it takes, it doesn't matter. She's beautiful. It's fine. So
it uses next to nothing.
So let's use this heat gun that I don't care about. All right. So in the low setting, let's see. There's my amperage.
Yeah.
It's like about 3.3. So if I have a 20 amp breaker, this is using up about 1/6 of my breaker space. So let's go for broke. Let's go to high. And it looks like it's real close to 10.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because this is a very old heat gun. And on the label, it actually lists an amperage and it said 10 amps. So it's actually really pretty close. So now why might this be beneficial for a DJ or somebody? Because be careful, that's hot now. Because we're trying to figure out, can I use this power conditioner? It's a 15 amp power conditioner, or how do I not trip breakers in my venue? Or what can I do in terms of power distribution inside my, my Bun Gear booth or my Max booth or whatever it is, all these kinds of things. This is a really cool little tool, very small and compact and very affordable. In fact, the special I was going to tell you about, Colorado Sound and Light has these listed at $99. We have them on the NLFX website right now. Jim at Colorado helped us make a special buy. We have them on the NLFX website right now for $59. While that supply lasts, and then we'll see if Jim's in a good mood and does it again. But we have a limited quantity in stock right now for $59. But wait, there's more. So you'd say, what if I need two breakers? And that's pretty common.
Very much so. Yeah.
DJ shows may need two breakers. Now, of course, you all are spoiled now. Those of us who are old enough to remember incandescent lights, we always needed two breakers.
And that was just for some of the lights, not all of them even.
Yeah, exactly. We couldn't even run all the lights off one breaker, but you're all spoiled now. So this has been a fairly popular item for a while for us at NLFX, but another Colorado Sound and Light item, and it is the Circuit Cue. And it took me a while to kind of wrap my head around this because it looks like a suicide plug. You're like, wait a minute, I'm plugging this thing into two places.
It definitely does. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was like, we know that's a bad idea. So let me
I think we did that show one time where
right. So I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, I was pretty skeptical right away.
Is that something for Bill Herman to plug in? I think it might be.
Yeah. Bill, just turn it off now. Just turn it off now. Have your assistant plug this in for you. So this comes with a carry bag too, which is good call on that, Jim. I appreciate it. But it also comes with this, which I've said repeatedly, every DJ should have. Before you plug this in, you should plug this in. And not because this is inherently dangerous, just because you should always know. I mean, obviously, any electrical device should be treated with some safety. But this is going to tell you if the outlet is wired correctly. And that really, really matters. If something is, wired wrong, you could have an energized chassis, and there's all kinds of ways that you could definitely get hurt. So before you plug anything else in, plug this in. It comes with the circuit cue. And then anyway, basically this dude here, you plug this into one circuit and you plug this into what you think might be another circuit. And if it is on a different phase, this green light will come on. And that would definitely indicate that it's a different breaker. Now, the catch is if the green light doesn't come on, that doesn't mean it's not on a different breaker. It could be on a different breaker on the same phase, and that's just because of the way electricity works.
Mm-hmm.
If the green light does come on, you know for a fact those are on different phases and different breakers, and your life is good. So anyway, we have a bundle with this and this and this. Also available on the NLFX website, and I honestly don't even know what we priced it at, but it's
$159.
So. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, we'll get them while they're too cheap. So
I put the links in the chat for those of you who are watching live. You can go to the chat and you'll be able to see both links for the individual piece and for the bundle. They're all there, and if not, you just go and you put in a power meter into the search, and then scroll down a little bit, and there they were. Bing, bing. First item showing up. So.
Well, that's awesome.
That worked out really well.
Those of you that have told us our search stinks, we know that. We're working on it.
Yeah,
so
this worked really well. So
we're not Google, but we're getting there. So thanks for hanging in there with us. And as always, if you have trouble finding something on our website, please just message us. We want you to find what you're looking for, and we're trying to make the site better every day. But yeah, just feel free to message us. And again, just to kind of recap this, if I had that heat gun that I had to use at my show for whatever reason, who doesn't have a heat gun in their show?
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I would know that I'm already using 10 amps out of potentially a 15 amp or 20 amp breaker for that heat gun. So, take and measure some of your things. It'll be kind of neat, by the way. Take a speaker, go crank it up a little bit and kind of watch this and see what you're, you can look at, okay, I typically play at this level. Well, that gets up to, this many amps to run this speaker. You can start getting a really good sense.
Mm-hmm.
Another place this is really, really important, if you're using like a battery system, like a jackery,
mm-hmm.
or if you're using a generator, how big of a generator do I need? That's a really hard sentence to say.
Mm-hmm.
Or how long will my jackery run? These are the answers. So, really cool. Very happy that our friend Jim is making these things, and happy that we can distribute it for him, and also happy that we can save you some big time money on it.
Yeah, so. Yeah. And for those of you in the chat there, you can see Kyle's with us tonight. Thanks for being with us, Kyle. Just reach out if you want to give a call and talk to somebody. Call him up there and talk to Kyle, and he will get you hooked up with the pieces that will be there.
Kyle's the man. He wasn't feeling good today, and he had a medical thing yesterday. I'm not allowed to talk about all that stuff. But anyway, I'm just saying, like, the dude's on the chat right now.
He's in the chat, and he's doing well. So we see him there. Thank you for being with us tonight. Let's see. We had a question. Came in about that meter. Can it be used? Should be just a plug in and run for a little bit, or could it be like put into the line for like an all night use?
I think you could put it in the line and use it all night. I don't know that I would. Me personally, I don't think I would want anything in line. The less stuff, the better for me, mm-hmm. to make me happy. But I don't see the harm in that. I think before I do, though, I would try to make sure you know what that draw is going to be, because this thing does top out, I think, at 15 amps. So let's make sure we're not exceeding that. You certainly wouldn't want a failure of your tester to cause your show to go down. And I don't know that would be the case, but I don't think I'd risk it in a live event. Mm-hmm. I would use it kind of in piecemeal until I had a good sense of where I was at.
Excellent. There's
me, the show is always first, man. It's just, I like experiments, but I don't experiment in a live show.
Yeah. So that was kind of my thought too, is I think a person could easily run speakers, because I think that if I'm remembering some of the tests where I've run speakers for an hour or so, and they go through times where they're using more power depending upon what type of music is being played and different things. So to have a real good indication of how much I'm pulling, you need to be taking, in essence, multiple.
Oh yeah, for sure. And different levels and different styles. And I think that would be a fun experiment, that you're going to see things that require a lot of low frequency, that's moving a lot of air, that's taking more power,
Yeah. Excellent. Well, we got a couple of questions we're going to kind of bounce through. If you guys have got some thoughts, put them down into the chat. They're talking about wireless microphones, and it brought up the question with me here, Ben, is one of the features of some of the microphones is to do scanning. I believe my RE3 system can scan and find open channels. You work in that realm a lot, and some of the more entry level do not have that capability of scanning. If I'm correct in that, I don't think is that feature to be able to scan that important for most people, or is the average person, could they be good without having to get a mic system that had the scanning capability?
I'm measuring my thoughts here to decide how I want to respond, because my first reaction, my knee-jerk reaction to this is, even some of the least expensive, decent models will scan. I feel like it's at that point, if you're buying a unit that doesn't scan, you're going to have other problems too. Like, it's probably a real piece of crap, to be honest with you. You know, that's just, that came out kind of abrasive, but it's like, yeah, that would just be one of the problems with that system for me, you know? So is it that important? Well, I think so, because otherwise you're basically playing hunt and just hide and seek with a clean frequency. You know, you're going to keep flipping through. Oh, that one didn't work. Oh, that one didn't work. Oh, that one didn't work. You know, what the scan does is the scan goes through and looks at every frequency, even if it's only for a tiny blip of a second, which is, that's all it is. But it at least says, is there anything there at that point in time? So you're basically doing the scan manually, one channel at a time, hoping to see if there's any interference there. Yeah, I think it's pretty important. I would say it's essential, but again, I would also say that it's probably indicative of a system that is probably not a great system. You know, I saw text messages coming in when I was saying that, and I was wondering who was hating on me right there. So, your mic sucks.
Yeah, well, you see.
No, I mean, just, listen. I mean, it's a tool that I think is going to make reliable wireless a much easier thing.
Next question. We're going to stick wireless microphones, it seems. Are
I
there?
like wireless mic.
Yeah. Are 9-volt, is the 9-volt world of wireless microphones dead?
I think so. Yeah, I think, by and large now these new circuits are so low energy. We're doing so much now with milliwatt and 10 milliwatt wireless mics that everything's really gone to either internal lithium ion or AA batteries. I don't really see a lot of 9-volt systems out there anymore. So I would say, yeah, it's a thing of the past probably. Doesn't mean that mic is bad. It's not, to me, it's not a judgment on the battery it uses. It's just not something you really see in any of the modern systems.
Yeah, I think I have one system that was really, it was the thing in the day. The Shure ULX system.
Yeah,
great system.
And the original, the RE2s, which you and I used and loved for a long time.
Yeah, There's so many of them
but those radios weren't as efficient, and they needed more power, and a lot's changed. It's it's a whole different time now. Like I said, we have mics that are 1 milliwatt. That's crazy little power. It would have been inconceivable with an old analog system. So the effective radiated power and the realized range from that would have been bad. But yeah.
Okay, batteries. Do the high-end professional microphones use AA batteries, or do they use the rechargeable batteries you were just making reference to? Or rechargeable? Are they rechargeable? I suppose is what they're asking.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes to both.
Yeah. Is one better than the other? I mean, beyond the ability to change batteries. I mean, if you've got some that are charging via, I don't know if they charge via USB or whatever they charge via, but
docks, USB. There's various. Depends on the mic. I mean, Accient has a really cool rack mount charger. You can pop batteries in, and I think Sennheiser definitely has that too. And I think that recently my answer on this has changed.
Okay.
Because if you take let's talk about a DJ level system. Let's not talk about like Accient or whatever. Let's talk about something that would be common for most of our viewers. Certainly not all. Some of our viewers are using EWDX or ULXD, which are really nice systems. Really just right at that bottom end of touring class, certainly out on small tours. But let's talk about something much more affordable like SLXD or Sennheiser EWD, where you're talking about systems in the $500-$600 range, right? These all take AA's, which is great because you can get a AA anywhere. No matter where you are, if you can find a gas station, you can get AA batteries. So the show can go on. That's really important. I really like that. but they also have factory batteries you can buy, these, purpose-built lithium-ion packs. And what's cool about these are smart batteries. So when you go to the display on the mic, it doesn't just show you, oh, you got 50% of your battery left. It will show you, you've got 6 hours and 3 minutes left.
Mm.
First of all, these lithium ion batteries that the factories make, that is not to be confused with lithium ion rechargeables that you buy at the store, because these are packs that are built to work with these mics and communicate with these mics. They last so much longer. I mean, it's like 12 hours plus in some of these mics. And they also show you that time. You go, look, you got 2 hours till I'm dead. So you might want to be thinking about that.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Yeah. But again, if that lithium ion pack dies, you can go right down the store to the gas station if you have to. I mean, first of all, honestly, if you don't have AA batteries with you, I think it's time to reevaluate what you take to your gigs.
Or go back and watch the backpack show where we talked about what to have in your backpack. That would be
my backpack gets heavier and heavier and heavier because I just think more and more things I need to have with me. And it's funny because a few weeks ago I had a surgery, and by the way, I'm doing great. Thank you for everybody who commented and said something that was really touching. Really, I read every comment and just really was moved by it. But they said, hey, we don't want you to lift more than 10 or 20 pounds. I'm like, my backpack weighs 30.
Yeah, I was going to say, have they seen your backpack? Show them the show. Send them the link.
Yeah, just go watch the show.
Watch the show.
Anyway, take batteries with you.
We're going to stick with batteries. When it comes to AA batteries for the microphones, alkaline or lithium ion, which one do you recommend for our wireless mics? Now, keep in mind, we'll just preface this by there's a substantial price difference between the Energizer lithium ion ones and the whatever alkaline, the Duracell copper top.
I'll just say what I use.
Okay.
And I'll say that it's probably.
I'm going to ask you why. I'm going to ask you why. So just know whatever you say, I'm going to ask you why. So go.
All right. I won't tell you why now. I'll wait till you ask me.
Yes, please.
I use ProCell. I use Duracell ProCell, which is an alkaline battery.
And why do you use that instead of a lithium-ion battery from Energizer?
Because I'm changing my batteries every show anyway, every time. And the ones that are left over, I'm using them for something else, the clock in the house or a remote control, or I'm giving them to, parents with kids that have games.
Trick-or-treating, that's a great thing to hand out to kids.
Just dump them in the, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't hate that if I went trick-or-treating and got batteries, but I'm changing them every show anyway. And two, ProCells come in bulk packaging, so there's not as much waste. I'm not having to deal with all the plastic packaging. But I think probably the biggest reason, if I'm being honest, is convention. I'm comfortable with it. I'm old and I do it my way.
So get off my lawn, you kids.
That's right. I mean, we have hundreds and hundreds of AA batteries. We have the big case packs that hold 288 lined up on the shelf. So it's just everybody in our organization is just comfortable. We call them a brick. Take a brick of batteries. So they'll take out a brick of 24 batteries or whatever, depending on, if we're doing a concert, we've got lots of mics and lots of IEMs. We might take, one of these boxes of 288, so it's just no good reason, to be honest. If you're using lithium ion batteries and that's what you're comfortable with, I couldn't talk you out of it. I got no reason to talk you out of it.
Yeah. Excellent.
Just do it my way.
Yeah, just do it. Yeah, do it like I do. You whippersnappers.
No, I mean, if it's working for you, like I said, to me, that's a clearer distinction between that and, if the mics had that factory rechargeable pack, that's a game changer.
That is pretty impressive to hear that. I did not realize. I mean, I should have, just by how the technology has evolved. But that would be awesome. You have 37 minutes.
If you're a small organization and you got a couple rigs or you're a single op and you can really make sure those batteries get charged, it's a little harder for, where our stuff is out on trucks for sometimes weeks at a time and it's coming back and it's doing this and it's doing that. And there's no time getting trucked overnight to charge, between shows. It's just, not saying it can't be done, you can charge them the next morning, as soon as you get in, whatever. But for us, again, we just we're doing it our way for now. But I think that's something that, we've got some pretty young leadership in that team, and they're undoubtedly looking at this technology and saying, hey, why aren't we moving this way? And and that's why they're there. You know, I mean, I need to be challenged too. I need to have people that are, you know, looking at the progressive steps and not just sticking with, you know, what worked in 1994. You know? By the way, this blew my mind. We talked earlier about age being, or time being arbitrary. I know that's in a different little part of the segment, but 2005 is as far from 1995 as that is from 1965. And when you think about 1965 and some of the monumental things that happened in that year that we heard about in 95, for me, you know, I mean, recently out of school, you know, that seemed like a long time ago. And now I'm like, wait a minute, but 95 just seems like it was a year ago. So,
Yeah, it doesn't seem that long ago. We remember those days.
so I started thinking, I was like, man, I wonder if that's what my parents were thinking in 95, that they were thinking 65 was just like, you know, a year ago. You know, I mean, you got, you know, all this stuff going on, a very tumultuous year. Anyway, I digress, random. So
you're trying to, you really just wanted to conclude the show by making us feel old.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
listen, man, like I said, you know,
just a second, I'm going to go get my rocker and we'll finish up the show here. Okay.
Hey, I've been following your posts. I've been watching all the running and stuff you're doing. So you're doing great.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's because, you know, we're all trying to, you know, keep one step ahead of the, you know, the wheelchair type of thing. The walker. Yeah.
Man, I tell you though, you know, that surgery, I do feel great. And
good.
2 weeks of basically being forced to do nothing has actually made me really want to go do things again. I'm like, I cannot wait to get out and just do something.
The big question that, and I know no one asked this important question because they were waiting for tonight, is, did you get service with ice cream whilst you were recovering?
No, I did not. Now that you say that, I suddenly feel like you know,
how have you been able to recover? Your recovery has been.
I will say this. My wife was amazing during the process because she knew what really needed to happen, and that was, she was basically like, get back on that couch or I'm gonna kick your butt, right? You know, like, you know, she knew that my biggest enemy was me, and so, you know, she really was supportive in that, and, you know, was not like, you know, hey, what are you doing sitting around all day? You know?
She's trying to contain you a little bit so you don't hurt yourself, and
right. She knows that, you know, in a few weeks life gets really back to crazy and there's no time to be hurt again. So, you know, it's like, it's time to get back to it and get out and do it. And I gotta say, you know, I'm not nearly as in good a shape as you, and, you know, doing all the running, but as I was walking to the OR, I walked myself to the OR, which is great, you know, and so as I was walking to the OR, I overheard one of the nurses talking to the anesthesiologist, and they were kind of going through stuff, and the nurse said to the anesthesiologist, said, he's really in great shape. And I'm like,
and of course he put his arms up like that, the whole back of his gown opens wide up, and then they're like,
oh yeah, man, I was, you know, I'll tell you what, I have no problem with that. I'm like, I walk around the hospital naked, it's fine.
That's pretty much what happens, unfortunately.
No, ain't nobody wants to see that. In fact, I think that was even may have been said, nobody wants to see that. So yeah.
Oh, crazy stuff. Thank you, Ben, for being with tonight and sharing some great information. And thank you guys for being with us also on some of your questions tonight. We had a lot coming in on Facebook. That was awesome. And up next, they'll be in the chill room, djntv.com/chill. You can go in there and hang out and chat. And they're going to be doing a little recording session and having some fun there tonight. And we'll be back again. Let's see, we got a couple more. I think we've got a couple more weeks, and then we have to take a week off on a Tuesday night here, Ben. I'll let you know about that. But you will be back again next Tuesday night, same time, 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern. We'll see you then. Good night, everybody.